Esta es una edición especial de White Paper y Proyecto 1954 de la US Mexico Foundation. Desde Washington, D.C., reunimos a voces clave del North Capital Meridian Diplomacy Forum, donde se discute el rumbo de la relación comercial, política y estratégica entre México, Estados Unidos y Canadá. Así que hicimos esta alianza porque creemos que estas conversaciones pueden ser de mucha relevancia para nuestra comunidad empresarial. En esta serie semanal te presentaremos 8 pláticas que tuvimos entre Enrique Perret, Emilio Cadena y yo, con diferentes invitados e invitadas de distintas industrias. Esperamos tus comentarios. Este episodio es presentado por Bancoppel. Hello everyone, I'm Susana Sáenz and I'm very excited to be here with this spectacular view in Washington, D.C. In the context of the North Capital Diplomacy Meridian Forum. Hello Emilio Cadena, nice to see you.
Hi, great to be here with you.
Thank you. Well, we're in this special edition of the podcast White Paper with US Mexico Foundation. And well, as North America depends its economic integration on the USMCA, financial connectivity is becoming just as critical as trade. Cross-border payments, financial infrastructure, and fintech innovation are reshaping how businesses operate across the US, Mexico, and Canada. Yet, significant gaps remain in building a truly seamless financial system, if you agree with me, Emilio. So to discuss this, I would like to introduce Penny Lee, CEO of the Financial Technology Association. Welcome, Penny.
Welcome, thank you, and welcome to DC on such a great, beautiful day.
Yes. Well, we would like to talk about this USMCA integration, and I mean in financial and technological terms, no? We know that there are still some gaps. So what's the role of fintech in this integration?
Yeah, so the Financial Technology Association represents a variety of what you would call fintech companies, those that are digitally native financial services. So, you know, those that you're probably using on your phone or your iPad on a daily basis, hopefully on a daily basis. And so what you see in this digital world in particular is a borderless world of financial services, where, you know, U.S. customers are getting supplies from overseas, from Mexico, Canada, and, you know, with no borders. You're seeing payments go across from loved ones to, you know, to students, to missionaries, to military service members across the globe. So you are starting to see this real global economy that is taking place, largely because of the digital nature of these financial services and fintech apps. So we work with them in trying to think through what U.S. policies need to be looked at, what we, you know, can do in our border states as well, and how we think about how we can make sure that it's seamless, that it's frictionless, that it's cheaper, faster, all of those things. And, you know, we've really learned a lot, had the opportunity to go down to Mexico City twice in the last 6 months. And the innovation that is occurring in not only your capital city, but throughout the country is amazing. And it's, you know, I would say you're somewhat actually a little bit ahead of us sometimes
Wow.
in kind of the adoption in particular. You know, when you have a cohort that is digitally native, that propels the adoption tremendously. You know, in America, we're still writing checks and sending it through the post, hoping it gets cashed somewhere. Whereas, you know, the technology allows for that seamless transfer without that kind of delay and waiting.
In which specific aspects would you tell some examples in which Mexico is ahead of
I would say on the, you know, on the adoption of digital assets,
okay,
on thinking through how to use stable coins as a payment rail, as thinking through kind of, you know, you still have legacy banks. We, you know, have a dual system, so we have 4,300 banks with a state regulatory system, a federal regulatory system, all doing, you know, incredible things. But you also have other countries that are leaning into the digital aspect of it at a higher adoption rate. So I would say that's a little bit where Mexico is ahead, especially on the adoption of these digital assets.
Great.
Can I ask you a question on the different regions of the world?
Yeah.
We've done this with other topics of conversation, but where do you see this digital adoption, for example, in Asia, specifically in China, but also Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and then how do you see Europe? Like these three main blocks. I'm from a manufacturing background, and this is kind of the blocks that we think of from manufacturing ecosystems. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, you saw China really adopt, especially through Alipay and other, where they were these all-in-one super apps where you could basically live your entire life off one app. And that app was allowing you to buy groceries, get credit, be able to send payments, being able to shop and live your entire life. So they really had that adoption, I think, on that level. Then you have through India, and their system, basically a population that is digitally native. They started, with a phone as their payment, and you go to almost anywhere in India, whether it be, a roadside, fruit stand or, a rug merchant, and you can instantly pay through a QR code or digitally, without having to exchange cash. Latin America, obviously Brazil on the forefront with Pix. And that ability for that instant payment capability and to be able to, again, have that digital adoption immediately has been transformative for Latin America. In Europe and in the UK, you also are starting to see them. I think they were kind of more on that adoption as well. So United States, we have, like I said, we have an incumbent system with a lot of legacy banks. We have a lot of new incumbent banks or new neobanks coming into the system and kind of breaking down some of those silos. So it's not physically going to a bank anymore. You're able to kind of have that banking life on your phone now. And so that's coming in more. 8 out of 10 Americans right now use an app on a daily basis to live a financial life.
Nubank is about to start operations.
Yes,
here,
exactly.
Right?
Yes, Nubank has got their, has gotten their license or conditional license. Revolut is another one. I know they have recently gotten their banking license in Mexico. They are now applying to have a U.S. bank as well. So again, it just goes to that global nature of payments and the global nature of financial services, where people are on the move. People are, living globally and they want to transact globally. And so, one thing that we're very excited about is, especially as it relates to USMC, as we start to see that trade factor more, it's no longer you build just a car in the United States, or parts are coming from Mexico, others are coming from Canada, and to be able to, as you would say in your manufacturing, you're getting supplies globally and having that ability to, purchase seamlessly, be able to pay for your invoices instantaneously. That's an exciting part of what's going to happen in the future, even more so.
And how to navigate in Washington where decisions are made. I mean, the Congress, the Federal Reserve, the Treasury, among fintech.
So we have 5 what you would call prudential regulators or federal regulators, depending on kind of how you're formed, whether that be the Federal Reserve, the FDIC, the OCC. You can go through the full alphabet soup of all of our regulators. At the same time, if you move money across state lines, you then have to have a money transmission license. So that's another 49, 50 plus territories licenses that you must get. So it's a lot. I know one of our member companies was saying, I think at some point he counted up 220 licenses that they needed to obtain to do the business in which they're doing. Again, they have multiple verticals of things they're doing, so it requires licenses for a lot of different things: payment, lending, extension of credit, buy now, pay later. So everything requires a certain licenses. So it's navigating a lot of different rules, regulations, things that are changing when you have a change of administration, as we did, a year and a half ago. They're going to put in different rules, or they're going to withdraw certain rules, or they're going to just make changes. And so we have a Congress that led on a digital asset bill, the Genius Act. So that's now getting implemented, and that will have profound changes of how we use stablecoins, how we use it as a rail, how we use it as a way to make cross-border payments. So that's a big, exciting, new rule that's going to be in the works and allows, I think, going to unleash an incredible amount of innovation. And I really want to thank the Trump administration for kind of pushing that in the Congress for getting that passed.
Susana, one concern that I have, and just listening to you, I've never thought about this on a conversation with somebody on your sector, but in manufacturing, we talk about trade facilitation.
Yeah.
And the speed that we need to have trusted actors of trade first, but then also facilitation to do things quickly and to move fast. And I listen to you and I say, 200 licenses, and I think my life is easier than yours. So where do you see this, the attitude of authorities in terms of facilitating, and not only facilitating, but doing it quickly, establishing the rules quickly?
Yeah, and that's kind of, there's always that friction between making sure that the consumer in small business is protected and allowing innovation to occur, because you want to root out bad actors, and you want to make sure that there's rules of the road that everybody understands, so fraud and scams and other things don't take place or take a hold of it. So, there's always that tension. I would say, in the current administration, they have a little bit more of a free market to let the markets decide what the pricing should be, what the principles should be, what the standards should be. At the same time, though, there's definitely rules on the road about what you can do on, know your customer, anti-money laundering, all of those kind of transfers of money. So there's really important aspects. So, I think what we're seeing is an adoption. Obviously, technology is always going to be ahead of regulation, but making sure, and that's why it was so important to have the Genius, because it established some benchmarks. It established how you go about transferring, how you go about engaging with a digital asset or a stable coin. And that's really important to level set everybody. And so those are the kind of things that we look forward to seeing more of, and kind of, though, allowing enough space for the innovation to occur. I don't know that we'll ever get rid of 200 licenses. That's a lot of regulators who like a lot of hands and a lot of things, and it's worked, although it's cumbersome. But what you are starting to see is the realization, especially in a small business and or a large manufacturing, is when you're working with suppliers, waiting 3, 5, 10 days for a check to clear is just not, in a global world, that just is impractical. If you're a small business owner, seeking an SBA loan that requires a 90-day, process, that's, you usually have 2-3 weeks of enough bandwidth. And so you're starting to see innovative products come into the marketplace to allow them access to capital in 3 hours, or, a day or two. And so that kind of innovation is occurring, again, with certain umbrellas of a regulatory structure.
But I think it's very important to see this support from the fintechs in terms of financing and lending to the small and medium businesses, right?
Yeah.
And also we want to talk about remittances that we know they play a very important role in Mexican economy, in the U.S. economy, and also in fintech, they are taking every day more importance, right?
Yeah, they are. And again, going back to just the global nature of where we're at, you have, in the United States, you have service members serving overseas that, would like to get, need funds, or you have missionaries on a mission overseas. You have just a whole use case. Students attending school or going on, a trip or whatever the case. I'm old enough to remember when my dad sent me traveler's checks, whenever I had to go travel. That is not necessary anymore. And so you can basically, get a payment on your phone and you can use it amazingly, in the currency and in the country in which you are. So there's an incredible amount of global movement of money. And what we, caution against is, especially we're starting to see it in the States, is a tax on those remittances. They're already taxed at the federal level. And now it's looking, as states look to do a revenue raise or get some more money in their coffers, tax those. But they're punishing to, again, it's a double taxation. It's punishing to those that are trying just to send to someone serving overseas, and then you're also with the small businesses, they're already strapped with very thin margins. Now putting a second tax on them to get a supply from Mexico or from Canada or from China or wherever the case might be, it could really see an entrenchment. And what we have said to the administration and to other states as well, when you make it difficult or you make it the tax onerous, they're going to go to places, not regulated. They're going to go to other entities that, you now lose sight of where that money is coming from or where it's moving to, or doesn't have the same ledgers attached to it. It's like, if you want this system, and it should be regulated to make sure it's not sent to fraudsters and others, it should be kept within the regulatory, but don't make it so that their option is to go into other places.
How important is, you're talking about borderless economies, right?
Yeah.
With fintech. We see the same way again on industry.
Yeah.
Are you optimistic on international regulation and alignment? I think Susana, you and I were talking about USMCA as the framework on how US, Canada, and Mexico operate.
Right.
This is not included in USMCA.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Are you optimistic on developing these trilateral rules?
I think it would be, I think it's definitely, when NAFTA was first done, we were not even a thought. Fintech was not a thought. It was not. And then obviously, even when it was renegotiated, just starting to really take hold, this digital nature was starting to take hold. So I do think it's an important, as you're seeing the, incredible growth in these digital tokenized deposits, tokenized movement of money, stable coins and others, I think it has to be part of the conversation as to how the flow of funds will be in a trade agreement now. And so along with all of the host of other concerns, I think the treatment of that flow of funds is an important conversation to have.
And you are already working with the Mexican FinTech Association, right?
Yes, Claudia is amazing. And they, I've had the opportunity, was down at North Capitol Forum in October.
Yes.
And then again for FinTech Mexico Festival in February. And it's so, the energy in those rooms are so amazing. And the conversations of what the next possibility could be are just, are very encouraging and just like exciting for me to be down there. And so working with, it's, naturally, when Claudia reached out about doing some things together, it made absolute sense for American FinTech and FinTech Mexico to kind of work together because, again, we're each other's closest neighbor. We do a lot of business across the border, and we are on the forefront. Both of us are on the forefront of this new digital innovation in financial services that is only going to have more adoption and more people.
Can you share with us some of this work in progress that you're doing with the association?
Mainly it is just sharing information as to what are you seeing. We're obviously seeing some stuff on the cross-border, on the remittances. It's more of an information share right now. And then we also have several members, US-based companies. So you have a Stripe and others that are down there, Wise, Remitly, others that are very active. And adoption. Rain is another one of our member companies active in Mexico. So we have joint we have joint membership. And so just being able to share and provide information about what is happening. Hey, could you help make an introduction, or can you help, collaborate on something? So that's been a real exciting part of it.
Well, so thank you so much. Would you like to add something?
No,
Okay.
it's great to listen to a different industry
Yeah.
than what traditionally here. So it was a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you so much. And I hope you guys have a great week here. It's
Thank
going to be
you.
an exciting week in DC.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very good.
Mhm.